All right. So I am about to call the Chapel Sheriffs. Lynn was going to call me on Monday, but she didn't. Maybe she got busy. Maybe the sheriff told her she was not allowed. You never know.
County Sheriff's Office.
Hello, this is Sean Schwartz again.
Hi, Sean.
Hey, you weren't able to get back to me on Monday, so I was checking in on you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I really haven't gotten anywhere because there's really no. We've reported it everywhere we can, and they've never opened cases. So there's really a cell phone where you can record that.
I have been recording it. The problem is getting blown off by the sheriff and the deputies here. It's not their problem, not their problem, not their problem, so on and so forth. See, that's the problem, is that without somebody going in with me, this is how people get treated when they can be called mentally ill, and then anybody can victimize them and get that. I've had to deal with this since I was in high school.
I'm sorry to hear that. I can't get anywhere right now with. You've already reported to everyone else above us.
I've tried to, but the thing is that nobody has come to take a look at any of the evidence. Nobody has come to collect any evidence through any of this. I mean, all of this is over the Natalie Bollinger case, and they keep trying to criminalize it and pretend that none of this has to do with Natalie or her death or the way that police treated me both before and after. I mean, what am I supposed to do? I mean, this is something that if it was anybody else.
Yeah. And unfortunately, with the Natalie thing, that was in Colorado. So we can't have any control over that.
But it wasn't just in Colorado. I mean, that started off in Virginia, and those people harassed me everywhere that I went, no matter where I went to Boulder, Colorado, then I had to deal with their crackhead friends there. If I came here to Nebraska, I had to deal with it here. I am a disabled person, not a retarded person. The things that they're doing are illegal. Not only that, but even though the jurisdiction thing, for me, they keep saying, "Oh, well, it's wrong jurisdiction, wrong jurisdiction." Even if it's in jurisdiction and I try to report it, I get ignored. I mean, getting threatened by Jesus fuck, what's that little guy's name? Uh, Chris Kurth. Like, I should have had a protection order against him 2 years ago, but police here in Chapel were breaking the law and busy covering up their crimes that they had committed before Natalie was killed and after. I mean, this is not acceptable for a human being to have to go through this. I'm still intelligent. I'm not schizophrenic. Autism is not retardation. When I was in high school, I had the highest test score average in every fucking class I was in, every single one. I got higher grades than Kim Jepsen. I got higher grades than Andy Carlson. I mean, I got higher test score average than all of the smartest kids in all of our classes.
Hey. Okay, keep going.
I need to have my rights observed. Police officers broke the law across multiple jurisdictions in order to cover for the wrongdoing of other officers, and that's not acceptable. Police officers do this nationwide, and something needs to be done to stop it. The officers in this town have used their power, and many other people and other officers elsewhere did so as well. And I can't blame you for it. You weren't even there when they were doing that stuff. Destiny was working there still.
Right. And if there was somewhere else we could go, if there's something else we could do, we would. We have, you know, you have reported to every of us. If they choose not to open a case, there is nothing that we can do in our own department. But we know that the NSP is aware. We know that everyone at FBI, we know that they're all aware.
And yet none of them have done anything still to this day. That's the thing. That's how the homeless are treated. And not
So
just the homeless.
What do you mean you're homeless? I thought you had an apartment.
No, I said that's how the homeless are treated. And I do have an apartment. But that doesn't change the fact that I've been given the mentally ill treatment my entire life. Anybody can victimize me at any point in time. Do I have to kill people to put a stop to this? If I put a hole in the sheriff's head, would that put a stop to it? If I was to put a hole in Chris Kurth's head, would that put a stop to it? Is that what I have to do to get a cop to do their job? Do I literally have to kill the people who are threatening my life and harassing me to put a stop to this because police won't do anything?
No, but Sean is on duty. Sean Holloway is on duty today. If you would like to speak with him, I will certainly take your name and number or put you in touch with him.
Absolutely, I'd like to speak with Officer Holloway.
Okay, what is your phone number?
Hold on a second, it's on the back of my phone. It is 308 566. Well, I've called the FBI repeatedly. My last call to them, I believe, was either last night or the night before. I've made over 200 telephone calls to the FBI over these situations, and you know, that's the thing, is that when you broke, nobody cares. And it's not that literally nobody cares, it's that really nobody in the government cares. I mean, the human rights violations that I've had to go through, and that many people who were trying to speak up and explain what was going on were also victimized. That's not okay. It's also not okay that I continue to have to go through this, that I continue to have to deal with Cody Selhorst, and that I have to be afraid to call the police. You know, the reason that I call this number isn't to call the police, it's so I can talk to you.
Right. You know Cody Selhorst is no longer here, right?
I do. But the thing is that Cody Selhorst is one of my predators, and when I tried to turn him in, Scott DeCosta had me sent to Scotts Bluff and drugged. He shouldn't have the power to do that to me. I was trying to turn in his officer, and I have it recorded just a few months ago where he said that I should have told him about that. I was trying to turn that into him when he had me committed. Police across the board have done that. You try to turn in a bad police officer, you either get assaulted, you get threatened, you get blown off, or you get committed and injected with drugs. This is not an acceptable way to treat humans, and this is a very clear human rights violation. Matter of fact, there's many of them.
Right.
Well, that was
the first time, so I can't honestly attest to any of that, but I'm listening, I'm hearing, you know.
Yes, ma'am. Like I said, I can't even be angry with you for any of it. I mean, the person who was working there at the time was Destiny, and it was mostly the police that I was dealing with, not Destiny. It's not her fault. It's not her decision. So I'm not blaming her, and I'm not blaming you. But the thing is that, I mean, when crimes are committed in the United States against a disabled person, who are we supposed to go to?
I don't know. Like, well, I don't know. How does Human Services, Adult Protection, Social Security, those things like that, do they help? I don't know.
I've made hundreds of phone calls. They all do the same brush through, roll through thing. Basically, all right, well, we're just going to go through the motions just to say that we went through the motions. We're not going to follow through. And none of them have followed through. I mean, my autism advocate is pretty much the only person who has understood what help I need ever since all of this started. And the thing is that she understands that I'm autistic and not retarded. But
Right.
then officers, when they want to cover up the fact that they did wrong, they just basically they try to pretend that I'm a low functioning autistic person, and then the judge makes decisions based on that before ever even meeting me. I'm not allowed to show evidence in court. I'm not allowed to speak up on my own behalf. I'm not allowed to face my accusers. Every single right that I have has been violated. Chaprask is the last place I want to be, you know? I mean, don't get me wrong, there are good people here, but there are a lot of really crappy people and a lot of really selfish people and a lot of really mean people. And when I got out of high school, the first thing I wanted to do was leave here and go somewhere where people were allowed to be nice to each other, even if you're a dork.
Right.
I don't know what Deputy Holloway would be able to do. I, I should have an advocate. I should have had an advocate this whole time to protect my rights, but I haven't. I mean, by law, I'm supposed to have those things.
Autism advocate doesn't do that?
My autism advocate is a volunteer.
Oh.
So
okay.
It's all dependent on what she's able to do. Right before Natalie was killed, I was getting everything transferred to Colorado because the services for somebody who's autistic here don't really exist. So I went to Colorado to be along the Front Range where most of those services do exist, and that's when Natalie died.
I'm trying to put you on speakerphone, so I hope I don't hang up.
That's all right.
Okay, good.
The thing is, I need to be able to turn in these people when they're committing crimes and not be afraid that the police are going to blow me off or arrest me or have me committed. It's not like I'm wanting my life to end because I have a chemical imbalance. I want my life to end because my life is hell, because my life for the last 4 years has been nonstop, having to deal with alcoholics and having to deal with meth addicts and heroin addicts and drug dealers because I can't get the police to do anything. I shouldn't have to go to those kind of people because the police are getting paid for that job. A lot of the places that I've gone to have the sliding fee scale, and I go to these places because they're supposed to help. And I get to these places and the help that they're supposed to provide, first of all, they don't provide. And second of all they're interested in is the sliding fee scale so they can get paid. They're not actually doing anything.
Right.
Disabled people have special rights. That's the thing that I have against special rights, is that special rights are not observed. There's no way to force those officers to observe those rights. There's no way to force those officers to wear their body cameras without changing the laws. And that's what I've been trying to do. I've been trying to force police officers to wear body cameras since the 90s. It's one of the most essential things for our freedoms. When they made those laws back in the 70s, they didn't have body cameras to enforce those laws or to make the police do those things. But we have that technology today, and the police should have all been wearing those things well over a decade ago.
Well, I think all of our local officers wear them now. I don't know about NSP, though. I don't know what their policies are.
Well, a lot of the officers here in Chapel had a bad habit of turning off their cameras when they were breaking the law, and that is a major issue. When Cody Selhorst broke the law, he turned off his body cameras. When to wear a body camera, most of the occasions where I spoke with him, that allows the things that he said to me to go unrecorded and unreported, and that's not acceptable either. when somebody is an at-risk adult and anybody can discredit them just by calling them mentally ill, then it is important and essential that that entire conversation be recorded every single time. It's also important that that person have an advocate presence who is able to prevent the cops from doing those illegal things. I have been assaulted repeatedly by police officers because of things that I didn't even do. I've also been assaulted repeatedly and incarcerated repeatedly for trying to turn in those bad officers. That's here in Chapel, Nebraska. That's in Colorado. And that's, sorry, there's a train going by. The thing is, if anybody else can make a report, but I can't, it's pretty screwed up. I've got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of documents from the jails, from the courts, that show that I'm telling the truth. But if nobody takes a look at it, then I continue to be victimized, and that's not acceptable either. Sorry, I'm in a horse trailer. It's made of metal, and the train is only not even 50 yards from me. Yeah. That's right, though. As long as they're not honking, I can still hear myself, sort of. The thing is that none of these places that I've reported have done anything to come and collect the evidence. They all expect me to be able to magically get it to them without the means to do so. I had the means to do so when Natalie was killed. I needed help, but those resources kept on getting stolen from me. And to this day, I haven't been allowed to face my accusers. I've been railroaded in every court date. I've documented most of this stuff on YouTube. I can prove through the witnesses and their conversations that what happened in Wyoming was completely illegal. What happened here was completely illegal. What happened in Colorado was completely illegal. And they ignored jurisdictional laws, rules, and regulations in order to break the law to cover their own wrongdoing. When you're called mentally ill, you just get blown off. Nobody's actually going to do anything. If you're a rich person, they'll do something. If you've got family that goes in with you, they'll do something. But my family is a bunch of drug dealers and child molesters. And I turn most of them in. They're not going to lift a finger to help me.
I'm sorry you don't have a good family either.
That's another thing that's not your fault. But thank you for saying that.
That would suck. Yeah. You do have some good friends, right? That look out for you. And
Not so much anymore. When people say stuff like that about you, people don't want to be around you. They don't want to be targeted for being around you. After what happened to Natalie, 3/4 of the people that I knew in this town won't talk to me. People throw beer bottles and beer cans and all sorts of stuff at me, scream racial slurs, call me a N-word lover and stuff like that. And I mean, I've tried to go to the police about this before. It's to the point I literally need somebody who's going to do something about this. It doesn't matter how much evidence I have if nobody bothers to take a look at it.
yeah, I don't have the answer. I'm so sorry. I don't have the answer for that. You know what I mean?
I do.
I haven't
And
been in this long enough to have all the answers yet. And even when I have been here long enough, I still won't have all the answers.
you probably won't. The way that the law is written on paper and the way that it works in reality are not the same. So even if you knew how all the laws, rules, and regulations are supposed to work on paper, they still wouldn't work that way.
Right?
Well, I guess have that officer call me later, and I'll try not to have a meltdown between now and then.
Try to have the best day you can, and I will have Sean call you here in a while.
All right, thank you. Be safe. All right. Leslie was always nice, but she was never mean to me, I should say. We didn't hang out or anything like that, but she wasn't one of the kids that was bullying me incessantly. There's another guy in town that I know. He's got 2 daughters that are twins. When I was in jail with Landis Lacey, who had a twin brother who was murdered. I was also locked up with Noah Matthew Benson, who also had a twin brother who was murdered. Who do you go to when they won't investigate, when they won't even look, when they make every excuse not to? Do I trust Deputy Holloway? No, I don't. He works for the same crooked sheriff. You know, if you tell me that this person is gone, this person who I had been trying to turn in, let's change this over. Now, doing this to a disabled person is considered a heinous crime, like child molesting or rape or murder. Yes, it is considered a heinous crime. But who's going to enforce it? Now, all these places claiming that they have files on me. Well, they should. I've been a loudmouth son of a bitch my entire life. The fact is that these officers abused their power and their position, and obviously, nobody's investigating this shit. Nobody's bothered to come get the evidence. When it came to Region 1 and Jen Beebe, y'all heard that conversation, didn't you? Yeah. Holy shit, we're in a fucked up world. Now, is this how black people get treated when they try to turn in a police officer? Yeah. Yes, it is. This is how the homeless get treated when they try to turn in a police officer. This is how black people get treated when they try to turn in a police officer. This is how Native Americans get treated when they try to turn in a police officer. This is how white people get treated when they try to turn in a police officer. You have to have someone there and present, and you have to be able to record it. When Natalie first disappeared, I didn't even know how to record it. When Natalie first disappeared, I'd been trying to learn how to take screenshots for a whole fucking year. Oh, you're a fucking retard. You're a fucking retard. What, you don't know how to take screenshots? Fuck you. I didn't grow up with this shit. Fuck, the most electronic bullshit that I growing up was watching my mom play The Legend of Zelda on the original Nintendo. Yeah, I got a great idea. Let's go home on home leave and get ignored. Mom's addicted to pixels. Jesus fucking Christ. So if the police never bother to look at evidence and do everything in their power not to, What am I supposed to do? I mean, according to the law, on paper, what they're doing is illegal as fuck. It's illegal for them to go out of their way in the way that they have to try to tag me as anything that will magically justify their crimes. Now, meanwhile, I got this BLM bullshit, Black Lives Matter, right? Claiming that I'm taking away from the black cause by speaking out for the other victims, myself included. How fucked is that? Moral of the story? If you're alone, people can do whatever the fuck they want to you. That's the moral of the fucking story. You look at that little white girl that was waiting on the train, getting assaulted by 6 black women. She was alone. George Floyd was alone. Demetria Shankling was alone. Tiber Hatay was alone. Elijah McClain was alone. Police know who to victimize, same as you do. Those black people who victimized that little white girl knew exactly what they were doing. Those police who did exactly the same thing knew exactly what they were doing. Every single one of you knows that you can victimize someone who is alone. And when you go looking for a victim, you're not going to go looking for somebody bigger than you. This isn't a matter of showing how manly you are. It's a matter of showing how cowardly you are, because you always pick someone who is smaller than you. Someone who is lower on the social ladder as well. That way the police don't care. That way the public doesn't care. And people keep saying, oh, well, you know, they'll show all this stuff about these white people, but they won't show anything about black people. With all due respect, they are showing the stuff about black people. They're not showing a goddamn thing that the homeless people have to go through. Because the homeless don't matter to Black Lives Matter. The homeless don't matter to most of you. Those of you complaining that you're marginalized are victimizing people who are more marginalized than you. But it's okay, because you're painting it as a racist issue instead of a class issue. Do I have to kill people to stop these people from victimizing others? What Cody Selhorst and Jared Hahn did were heinous crimes, are still heinous crimes. Now let's say you go to turn in your rapist and they refuse to investigate and they incarcerate you for trying to turn in your rapist, and then they help your rapist to flee state. Let's say you were raped by Cody Selhorst in Chapel, Nebraska, and you go to turn him in and they incarcerate you. They have you sent to a nuthatch and injected with drugs because you told on a police officer for raping you. And then they charge you with crimes for defending yourself. And then they let Cody Selhorst go to South Dakota, where he can't be pursued. Now this officer gets to use his badge to rape somebody else. A lot of y'all, you can't compare that to rape. No, I absolutely can. A heinous crime is a heinous crime, but you turn a blind eye to everything else. You turn a blind eye to heinous crimes against the homeless. Well, let's put it in fucking perspective for you. Most of us streets aged out. Most of us on the streets were former foster children. Most of us on the streets were raped growing up and beaten for whatever reason. Most of us on the streets don't have families who give a shit. If only those would work together the way BLM does. Of course, the difference between the homeless and BLM is that the homeless are not a racially motivated hate group.